What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back for another review of Sistas. This is Season 7, Episode 8, and the episode is titled Pins and Needles. Let's get right into this review. So, we actually start this episode off with Andy talking to some guy in a suit. And I'm like, who is he? Come to find out he is a criminal lawyer who just happened to go to law school with Andy. Now, I'm just like, it's interesting that all of the people that Andy went to law school with are guys. Because if y'all remember, at one point there was a time, I feel like Gary was already in jail or whatever, and Andy had called a friend from college, and it was another guy who she went to law school with to help her out. Do y'all remember that, or am I making that up? Like, did you not have any female friends that could help you? Like, did you only hang out with the guys in law school because you had your sisters? What was going on? But nonetheless, this guy basically tells her about Gary and how he is a ticking time bomb, and he warns her to get as far away from Gary as she possibly can because, baby, when he go down, he's about to go down, okay? Now, according to Andy, she's trying to get away from Gary. I'm like, are you, girl? Because I don't feel like you making enough effort, okay? Because one of the first things that you should have done was sell that penthouse, okay? So that way he can't keep throwing it in your face that he bought it. Because we're going to circle back to that a little bit later. But nonetheless, this man has also checked into the Jordan situation. And come to find out, Jordan is all clean. He don't know that white girl. It was all made up. This guy, he chunks it up to be in dirty politics. Okay? I'm like, okay, cool, fine. So we move on. And when he leaves, Fatima comes rushing in. And she's like, Andy, you have a visitor. Andy, you got a visitor. Baby, here's the thing. I thought we were going to be introduced to one of Andy's relatives. I'm like, okay, cool. This could be like her grandma, her mama, somebody. No, it's a rich black lady. I'm like, who is this? Her name is Marie something. I think it's Marie Williams, something like that. But she's supposed to be this black billionaire, right? So Miss Mamas wants to divorce her husband, but at the same time, she hasn't exactly hired Andy yet because, come to find out, Jordan is the one who recommended Andy for the position, to be her lawyer. However, with Jordan's whole situation going on, the lady's like, oh yeah, I would have checked him. I know that you checked him about this whole thing and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, man, what is going on here? Then she ends up telling Andy, like, well, I know that he didn't do it. I'm like, so what would be the point of Andy checking him if you over talking about he didn't do it? I digress. She said that she looked into this man's eyes and she knew that he was not lying. I said, okay, fine. So this is supposed to be a very big case because, like I said, this lady is rich. And she wants to make sure that her husband, he gets none of her money. Now, like I said, she did not hire Andy. She basically told Andy that she needs to stay ready because at any given point, I guess this lady will hire her. She might not. I'm like, Andy, why didn't you bill her? I'm sorry. I would have billed her because what you're not about to do is bring yourself all the way to my office, okay? You didn't know if I was in a meeting or not, but you bum rushed your way into my office just to dangle a possible opportunity to represent you in my face? Girl, get up out of here. Like, I get it. She's supposed to be like this big client and all that. And of course, Andy will be making a bunch of money off of this case. But it's just like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really here for this lady. I can already feel it. But nonetheless, we next see Fatima. She's ear hustling outside of the door of the office, right? Now, am I tripping? Or did it look like she was standing on the outside of her office and not Andy's? It looked a little strange, but nonetheless, Hayden comes up. Now, he doing all this yelling. I said, hold on, Zach 2.0. Why are you now doing all of this yelling? He's upset because he had to, go through security or something like that. So, Fatima and of course, Hayden, they had their little back and forth or whatever. And he's so nosy, he wants to know who is in there with Andy. So she ends up telling him, like, oh, it's Miss Mamas that's a billionaire. And he's like, oh, well, I'm about to see and meet her. Okay, fine. So when he finally meets her, because the lady was coming out the door, she did not care about nothing Hayden had to say. Hayden over here telling this lady, oh yeah, I'm about to make partner, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, she did not care nothing about it. Okay? So after that, we see Andy, and she's telling Fatima how, she's going to go meet up with her man or whatever. And then we also see that Fatima is going to go ahead, head down to the hospital, so that way she can go see if Zach is the daddy as well. All right, y'all, if y'all haven't noticed, I'm just going to go person by person so we can go ahead with these storylines out the way. Back to Andy. We see Andy in New Jordan, right? And this whole situation, it was given Andy is back to being Andy the user, okay? Because y'all know, Andy will use somebody if she don't do nothing else, okay? She basically told this man that she's here to apologize because, she should have stuck beside him and blah, 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 because, she believes him and all of that. However, I feel like the only reason why she's even at this man's doorstep, and honestly, I think that they were at Andy's place. I'm trying to figure out why can they never be at Jordan's, because that man have a whole house. But I digress. I just feel like when it comes to Andy's character, the only reason why she even showed up to talk to Jordan was because he recommended her to represent the black billionaire lady. That's the only reason why. She sees this as, ooh, I get this big case, I can make partner. This is all to benefit Andy, okay? I don't think she really care about what Jordan's talking about. Like, sure, it's cute to have her little boyfriend, Jordan, but she's going for the bigger picture and how this all can benefit her. So now these two, they're trying to get all frisky, but then he's like, oh no, I gotta go to, some meetings. I can't do that. We gotta, clear all this stuff up. Okay, fine. Here's my thing. What does the new Jordan and Andy do together or have in common? Because the only thing that I'm getting right now is the fact that she supposedly looks good on his arm and they just hook up all the time. That's all we got. Ain't got no more. Like, one thing that I will say about, like, the Daniella and Tony situation is that they seem to have more real conversations versus Andy and Jordan. But what's there to be expected? Because that's the way all of Andy's relationships have been written. All she do is get in bed with these guys and then go to work. That's all she do. All right, so Andy, she has figured it out that Gary was the one who is behind, Jordan being accused of messing around with this underage girl. Now, I feel like what triggered it was because, what's his name? Jordan was like, yeah, whoever tried to set me up must really hate me. Boom. Who else would hate Jordan? Of course, it would be Gary. But nonetheless, she is upset about it. So she ends up calling Fatima like, yo, I know that Gary was behind all this Jordan stuff. I'm going to meet with him and tell him what I think. Tell him to leave us alone. But Fatima's like, girl, no, you are not about to meet with him by yourself because Gary is crazy. And I agree. Gary is absolutely crazy. He might choke you up. Like, let's be honest. Y'all know Gary is not afraid to put his hands on women. He's done it to Andy before. Now, moving on. Gary, he ends up showing up to Andy's apartment, right? First of all, he thought that this was about to be on some other type stuff because he walked through the door like, oh yeah, I knew you'd be calling me back. Buddy. That's not what we here for. So Fatima, she had to shut him down real quick. And you already know, he was pissed off that Fatima was there. So Andy, she's calling Gary out for what he did. And, she tells him that he needs to leave Jordan and Penelope alone. I'm like, yeah, and yourself and your friends and anybody else that you know. But girl, this man is on a rampage. If only you knew. So, Fatima, she ends up telling Gary to leave or whatever. He does end up leaving. Now, y'all, I just have one question because that scene, it was whatever for me. What was in that bag? Like, what was in that spend the night bag that Fatima had pretended as if she had like some full-on like rifles in there? Like, what was going on? I'm like, girl, what is in that big old bag? A pillow? Some pajamas? What is in the bag? I'm trying to make it make sense. All right, now, since we brought up Gary, y'all, let's talk about how Sistas has become the Gary and Sistas show. Because when I tell you, I feel like Gary's storyline has been expanded far more than some of the sisters. It absolutely has. It's ridiculous. Like, I feel like Cheeto, they must never want you to leave this show, number one. Number two, you must be their favorite. You must be their favorite guy on the show. Because between you and Zach, I don't know whose roles have been expanded more. Like, I'm just trying to understand how I feel like we as the audience, we all thought that Gary was going to be one of the characters that will be slowly but surely, fizzle out, okay? We going to get rid of Gary at some point. But when I tell you this man had more scenes than some of the sisters, I'm like, okay, that's a problem, y'all. It's starting to be a problem, but I digress. So, like I said, back to Gary's storyline. We see Tamara and Gary meet up at a hotel room, y'all. I said, oh, I'm not here for this. I am not here for this because I wanted Tamara for Hayden. So, these two end up hooking up or whatever, and we get to the aftermath of what happened after. So, if you looked at her face, it did not seem like baby girl was impressed. But nonetheless, Gary, he wants her to keep all of this a secret, especially from Hayden. And I was so thrown off when he told her, oh yeah, if I send you the horse emoji, that's what I want you. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. Here you go, trying to control the situation like you always do. Okay, Gary. I'm just like, so not only are you doing your boy dirty, who's Hayden, you also have your pregnant fiance, and whoever else you got on the side, because we already know he probably got some side girlfriends somewhere. I'm telling you, the amount of time that Gary has in a day to just do foolishness blows my mind. Because I'm like, at what point is he working? Also, where is the FBI? How did the FBI not show up to his place of work? That's the one thing that blows my mind. We saw, or at least we heard, that the FBI went to Hayden's house. They showed up at Andy's job where old boy don't even work. However, they never made it to his job. Somebody get the FBI on the line, okay? Nonetheless, when he ends up leaving out of this room, because now he think he's that guy. Since he done took down Tamara talking about he better than Hayden. Okay, sir. Come to find out, she had been recording all of the audio that went down on a pen that she had, you guys. Like a writing pen. I said, okay, my girl ain't that dumb. Okay? I'm all here for her blackmailing Gary. I mean, she's absolutely going to lose Hayden in the end, but I do not mind her blackmailing Gary because I can't stand Gary. Cannot. But let's go ahead and move on because that's not the end of us seeing Gary. We see Hayden. He goes to see Gary at his office, and he did happen to notice that Gary had, like some little hickeys or whatever marks on his neck or whatever. So that's not why we here, though. Hayden had to tell Gary that Andy may potentially have this black billionaire as a client soon. And I'm just like, okay, but you don't even know what they were meeting about. Relax. Come to find out, y'all, early in Gary's career, this woman had crossed paths with him, invested in him, blah, blah, blah. So he know this lady. So now Gary has the bright idea that he is going to meet up with this lady and tell her the type of person that Andy is. AKA, he's about to drag Andy's name through the mud. And I'm just like, again, you have got to let this go. Like, you're not with Andy anymore? Okay, move on. Like, he's adamant. Like, Gary is so crazy. It's ridiculous. But y'all, that was pretty much everything that happened with Gary. Let's go ahead and move on to... Let's talk about little Miss Daniella and her therapist, okay? So, the first thing that we see with Danny, she is meeting with her therapist or whatever, and Danny is going on and on about Tony and his kids, okay? Now, that has officially become the issue in the relationship. I'm just kind of like, Danny, those kids just got here, okay? I mean, like, you literally were in the room with them for less than 5 minutes, and you've created all of these scenarios in your head of how things can go wrong. That's wild, okay? The fact that also she never, ever made any effort to get to know his kids, yet she has so much to say about them, is really bothersome. Like, I think what's bothering me so much about this storyline with Danny is the fact that she knew that this man had kids already. She would rather him be a father who's not involved in his kid's life, clearly. And it was weird to me that when the therapist came up with the idea for them to do an exercise about what's the worst case scenario with Tony, everything she said had to revolve around them kids. And I'm like, there are bigger issues that y'all have at hand, but you refuse to acknowledge, but it's okay, whatever. What got me was when she started listing things that have happened in movies. Like, oh yeah, I think that these kids, they're going to try to get their parents together, or what if the kids hate me, and all this stuff. And it's like, you, again, have not made any effort. Because last time I checked, when a little girl saw you, she was like, oh, you're so pretty. She never made any hateful comments. Yes, the little boy, he definitely said something that was out of line, but again, nothing about these kids were giving off that they were just going to be mean and rude and nasty to you. Also, it was the fact that she said, what if the kids try to get their parents back together? Girl, if them kids ain't tried to do that yet, I don't think that they're going to start. Also, let's not forget that this lady is getting deployed. You let me know when these kids are going to have time to turn into the parent trap. Please let me know. Danny, I feel like there's a bigger issue when it comes to Tony, and you're putting it on these kids. I just personally feel like Danny is not ready to be in a relationship. Period. Like, nothing about her character at this point. I don't care that she's been to 3 sessions of therapy. Nothing about her character is ready for a relationship. She's not. Like, she's still dealing with her own trauma from the past incidents that have happened with the latest men that she was dating. On top of that, Danny has some internal stuff that she needs to work through by herself. Like, I feel like her and Tony need to go ahead and take a break, Danny get herself together, and then maybe we can revisit a relationship. That's just how I feel. But we're going to go ahead and move on. All right, now let me go ahead and jump on over to Sabrina real quick. So we see her at the hospital or whatever, and she does seem to be a little shaken up. Now, as she's like waiting around at the hospital, Karen, she ends up waddling in, and she's like, what's going on, Sabrina? And Sabrina opens up about clearly being overwhelmed after her appointment. I can't lie. I was like, no offense to Sabrina, but girl, you are just getting started with the process of your egg retrieval. Okay? Yes, there's going to be blood work involved. Yes, there's going to be testing. Yes, there's going to be a lot of things happening. Unfortunately, I did feel bad that she was like, I felt like a science project. But I'm like, I'm sorry to tell you, those are the necessary steps. Also, girl, just wait until you're pregnant, okay? Because you're going to have appointments and all this other stuff that you have to constantly do. Because she just turned 35. They might deem that as a, what's it called? A geriatric pregnancy. You know, it could be a whole thing. But nonetheless, Sabrina was very shaken up by all the stuff that she had to go through. And one thing that I can respect is that Karen seemed to be more endearing when it came to what Sabrina, was going through and how she felt versus somebody like Daniella, okay? Because Danny is just not the right friend for things like this. The same way I feel like Andy is not always the right friend when it comes to certain things. Like, even though Karen is closer to Andy and it seemed like Sabrina is closer to Danny, I'm glad that in this moment, it was these two having this conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because once, Sabrina's like, oh, Karen, what are you doing here? Because I know you already had, an appointment. Because Karen tried to be like, oh, no, it's just a checkup. It's like, girl, you was just here for a checkup. What's going on? So she finally opens up about, getting a DNA test and all of that stuff. And Sabrina was even willing to wait with her, while she gets this testing done. And she's like, oh, no, you can go ahead because Zach is going to be here in a minute. Okay, fine. So, we about to go ahead and leave that situation, y'all, and slide back on over to Sabrina having a conversation with Danny. Because Danny came over to Sabrina's house or whatever, right? First of all, they talk about Karen and how Sabrina saw her at the hospital. Danny, she's like, I'm so glad that this DNA test is happening because she's tired of the baby daddy, baby mama drama. I said, girl, why you acting like you in the middle? Oh, right. It's because you want to be Fatima friend so bad. That's right. I get it, Danny. So, she then goes on to talk about how, Karen, she didn't tell them that she was going to go do this testing. Like, oh, if you wouldn't have ran into her, we wouldn't even know any of this happened and blah, blah, blah. Here's my thing. You can't be mad at her for keeping things, away from the group when all of y'all do the same stuff. Every last one of you ladies have something going on that the other ladies don't know. Okay? Andy has some skeletons in her closet. Karen got skeletons in hers. Sabrina has them in hers. Danny, you definitely have some in yours. Okay? So I don't understand how you're expecting for Karen to always tell you her business when you don't always tell yours, Danny. It goes both ways, sweetheart. So they end up talking a little bit more about Sabrina or something like that. I kind of zoned out a little bit. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. But Sabrina said, this part that threw me off. Sabrina was like, yeah, we just need to get back to like how it was the first night that we met. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess now she's talking about Rich. And they decide, oh yeah, we should go do a double date. Excuse me? Who's doing a double date? Sabrina, why are you still dating Rich? Like, I am really trying to understand why we're keeping Rich around. She needs to drop him, like, ASAP. That man does not align with anything that you're talking about. Nothing. Like, yeah, y'all may have a good time together. That's cute and all. But he doesn't want kids. You're trying to go through the process of freezing your eggs and some embryos. He has no parts in any of that. I'm not understanding. It's making no sense. I get it. Maybe she's afraid to be lonely. I don't know what the problem is. But I don't think that Sabrina should be forcing herself to still be sticking around with Rich. It's not bringing you anything, girl. It doesn't make sense. Nonetheless, I guess they kind of agreed they were going to double date. Moving on, you guys. Alright, so I want to talk about this really quick scene, which was Pam and Trey. So, y'all, Trey is over here stopping by the salon, even though he had no packages that day, because he that thirsty for Karen. I'm like, sir, please go away from us. Like, you may be a nice guy, but your thirst for Karen is crazy to me. So Pam, she decides, this part had me laughing for real. She decides that they about to go ahead and recreate that one scene from Poetic Justice. I'm not about to repeat the lines, but y'all know them because y'all watched. I was laughing. Like, come on, Pam, be the comedic relief. So, nonetheless, Trey, like I said, he over here thirsting for Karen so bad. He trying to figure out if something that he said was wrong the last time he saw her. And sorry, go away. Like, Trey, just go away. Now, speaking of people being thirsty, though, guess who calls Pam? Aaron. I'm like, well, how often does Aaron call Pam? Now, I'm assuming that he was just calling to check in to see how Karen was doing, you know, like if she was okay or whatever. But again, my question is, how often do you call Pam to check in on Karen? Because that's a little weird, but I'm going to let you, do your thing. So, you have Pam being like, oh yeah, she's doing fine, blah, blah, blah. But here's the real question. I need an investor to my brand. What is it called? Roots to Riches. So, yeah, let's talk business. Now, I don't mind Aaron being an investor for Pam. But I honestly, again, you guys, I wish that the story was that Pam moved up from being a receptionist to being a partner with Karen. I think it would have been better to have Pam be a partner to Karen in the salon. So that way, at least we can say, okay, her brand will be creating like some revenue for the company or something. I don't know. And I think it would have changed their dynamics if they were on technically the same level. But, whatever. It is what it is. Now, my question is, do y'all think that Aaron is going to show up to the hospital because of Pam? Y'all think she told him that Karen was going to get that DNA test? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But now let's go ahead and wrap this on up with Karen. All right, y'all. So we actually see Zach. He shows up to the hospital and he ends up bringing Karen some food. I'm like, all right, cool. That's nice. And he thanks her for, doing the DNA test. And she's already filled out all his information on the sheets. All he got to do is sign them. I'm like, okay, cool. I do like seeing them getting along, laughing and whatnot. This is where things get interesting because Fatima shows up. Now, she's there to support Zach. Karen has an attitude automatically. So now you have Zach trying to balance between Karen and Fatima, not trying to step on either lady's toes. You know what I'm saying? And Zach tries to apologize to Karen for Fatima showing up. And then it just became a whole ordeal. Okay? Baby, the nurse came out talking about Karen and Zach. Baby name could be Zarin if it's a boy. Lady, go file that paper. And go away from us. Talking about that's a cute boy name. Oh my gosh. Like, ma'am, please stop. Just read the room. You don't see this extra lady sitting next to this man. But nonetheless, Zach and Fatima, they are waiting on Zach's blood to be drawn or whatever. He is being extremely dramatic. And I mean, I was laughing, but also I've been that person before, so I couldn't laugh that hard. I've definitely been that dramatic person when my blood is getting drawn because I don't like needles either. Moving on. So lastly, you guys, we see Karen. And baby, that needle was huge, okay? I've definitely seen this type of thing happen on a show before. And every time I see that needle, I'm just like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. You mean to tell me y'all couldn't just get this DNA test after the baby was born? Like, did we have to do all of this? But nonetheless, the lady is doing an ultrasound, right? When she turned that screen, you could clearly see that there was two babies. And I'm just like, so nobody's shocked? No? Because Karen was just like, oh yeah, my baby, whatever. It was as if she knew she was having twins or something. I'm just like, you don't see those two things right there? Nobody sees that? So the lady is like, the nurse, she's like, oh, wait, let me see something. Like I don't know, she made it seem as if she didn't even like hear the baby heartbeat or something. Come to find out, she did hear the heartbeat. Everything's good with that one baby, but there's also a second baby. So, yes, Karen has learned that she is having two babies. Now, these two babies are in two separate sacks. So, I feel like the show is going to do the whole one baby is Zach's and one baby is Aaron's. But we shall see what happens. Y'all, let me know what y'all thought about this episode. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to y'all in my next review. Bye, guys.